Hello everyone and welcome back to the next episode of the Road to the Master series. After 3 losses in a row, there comes the round number 8 of the Cracovia Chess Festival, so I had to keep fighting and let's see how did the game go. I was playing, as you can tell, a lower rated opponent, no surprise after losing 3 games in a row, but still a decent rating wise, so yeah, I expected a good fight. On top of that, I saw this guy playing right next to me for a few rounds actually, and I spotted that he has somewhat a aggressive approach to chess. He likes to play unorthodox openings and structures and so on. So it was a no surprise to me that after knight f3 that I chose, he would go for the f5 move, trying to go into some Dutch opening Dutch systems. Knight f3 indeed from myself obviously might be somewhat a surprise to you because you know that mostly I play e4, but when preparing against this guy, I didn't like the lines and the ideas that might have happened after e4, and I realized that I can basically play the position from the last round, from round number 7, but instead of having black pieces, I can play with white pieces because my opponent was playing exclusively the line that I chose one day before that with the other pieces with black, right? So I decided that since I have prepared everything from the black's perspective, I can as well just try to play it out with white and see which side do I like more. So I went into the line of g3 and so on, and after e5 you may say that you've seen it somewhere before, and indeed if you were on my channel yesterday you saw that from my own words and moves, let's say. But in the game, if you remember, my opponent did not play d3 move. I in here played the d3, and after bishop e7, c4, castle, knight c3, we got to the position that I expected to get with black. In here, I had a different idea though than my opponent because I would be playing queen e8 first, which might be somewhat only a transposition move order or something, but after queen e8 before, I would not play c6, and he played c6 before queen e8. So similar stuff, but I had some little idea there. I will not spoil it to you, maybe I will use it in the future. The point is, I expected this type of scenario and position, and I knew what is the idea for white. And basically it is a no surprise that the idea will be to just try to go for some queenside activity thanks to this bishop, thanks to the space advantage and so on. Opponent, on the other hand, will be playing on the other side of the board with queen h5, trying to set up some kingside attack. So as expected, as I've told you, my opponent is a crazy guy looking for something aggressive. And I knew that in order to stop him, there is a little idea for me of e3, and after bishop e6, knight d2. I'm dropping back the knight, I'm suggesting a queen trade, and I knew that objectively speaking, black should go for it, because if he does not, and he did not, his attack is not that aggressive, not that endangering, let's say, to me, and he would have better chances in the endgame. I am just stabilized in here a little bit better, but I need to prove that I am, having some idea of what to do for the future. In the game, however, as I've said, he did not go for the exchange. He played queen h6, and I've decided, okay, he does not want to exchange, therefore I can push because I'm faster, right? My pawns are far more advanced than his. Funnily enough, after b5, I did not consider knight g4 to be a possibility of any kind. And once my opponent played it, I realized, well, did I blunder something? Because obviously the checkmate is threatened, but I can protect myself with h3, kicking away the knight. So what is the knight supposed to do in here? I mean, is he going to waste 2 tempos? I don't think so. And only then I realized that obviously h3 has to be played on my own, and opponent can sack the knight on e3. And after I take, he takes with the triple attack, let's say. I have to play there, and there is such a position. So funnily enough, I got into that position because it happened in the game without expecting it, let's say. But once it started to happen, I realized that I should be much better in here. So it just, came out of nowhere, and I knew that I'm better. Why? If you remember my game from the Kielce Chess Open from round number, I believe 4, with black pieces against Grandmaster, I told you there a funny line, funny sentence I've heard from him, which was, in that game with black pieces, I went for a very early piece sacrifice on h2, similar to the Greek gift combination, let's say, that you may know. And I've calculated the lines for, I believe, 40 minutes nearly. And my Grandmaster opponent did not do it at all. And you might ask, why is that? Is the Grandmaster type of guy so good that he does not have to calculate? Well, not really, but he had a sentence in mind that because I was not coordinated enough, and he had all the pieces connected on the first rank and so on. He was just okay. He knew that it cannot work. So once I was met with nice G furor and I was trying to evaluate what happens if all this sacrifice happens, I was more and more happy about my position because as of now my king is safe. I can say that for sure. And opponent's pieces are maybe not developed, but they are not coordinated in any way, and they are both not protected, and the rooks are not looking at each other. The knight is also not moved, not developed yet. So I felt like this kind of sacrifice was simply premature. However, obviously, I am asked, let's say, a few tough practical questions because yes, I have one more piece, but for the price of 3 pawns. So materially speaking, we are around equality. On top of that, I am hit there. On top of that, I am hit there too. And the pawns are mostly central ones, right? So I need to be really precise. But knowing all that, I knew that I have to be precise, but I should be better. So let's just calculate everything, right? So for the most part, I was focusing on the queen because for me it felt like it's somewhat misplaced in here, limited in space, in possibilities. So I was trying to hunt it down, let's say. Therefore, my initial reaction was to try to play rook f3, but I didn't like the fact that after queen d4, which is the only move, in plenty of variations, my rook on a1 would be left hanging. And I knew that I can play knight e2, allowing the queen a1, and then play rook a3, trying to trap the queen. And I was trying to do that, but with the better version, because in here I have the queen, but for the two rooks. So once more, objectively speaking, materially speaking, I'm not better by any means. And I was unsure if my position have more potential than my opponent have more, let's say, stability. Because yes, I told you guys those were not protected, not active, but at the same time, his position is rather compact, not that many weaknesses to attack, and I was unsure how to evaluate it. Will my queen have or not have enough targets to attack, let's say? So I disregarded rook f3 and I was trying to think of some other way to attack, to put pressure to the black queen, and I've decided in the end that I want to play rook a3. So not attacking the queen directly, but rather indirectly. And the difference is that as of now, everything in my camp is protected, basically. And this was a significant difference to me. And on top of that, even though I'm not creating pressure as of now, I'm threatening with all kind of stuff. Knight d5 is the first move that comes to mind, right? Some discover attack. For those reasons, I believe my opponent chose the most sensible way, which was queen d4, going away from the attack. However, a more critical line was that one of d5, and I spent the most time on this one specifically because I had two choices in here, and I don't even remember to which line I was leaning towards more, because I can once more try to hunt down this queen by playing knight e2, and after bishop a3 play rook f3, so basically changing the move order, changing the rooks, attacking the queen. In here, however, it's not clear that much, because after queen e1 takes, all of a sudden I was hit there and there. Two more pieces went away for me. And I was debating between this position, in which I have the continuation of knight b3, hitting the bishop, trying to take over some dark squares, hitting the pawn, taking the pawn, the bishop, and so on, So maybe indeed it would be nice, but maybe something else is nicer, right? Because after d5 I was thinking also about cd5 simply. And d5 overall, I should mention beforehand, was played with the idea of opening up the bishop to the rook of mine. But after takes, I'm hitting there and there. But opponent also is hitting there, right? So I had to calculate everything. And I felt like after this move, I should be even fine with that variation. Because materially speaking, I'm still a piece up and the king is very, very weak. And therefore, in that moment, opponent should not take my bishop, but rather the pawn to try to keep this solidity in the center. But still, I just move back the bishop, perhaps to d6, and I play there. So all in all, materially speaking, I'm still not yet better, but practically speaking, I should be. So this was the variation, and as I've said, it's the debate between that position and maybe that position. Which do I prefer? With the queen for the compensation for the opponent, or rather with more of a equal material, but with the compensation, with the initiative for my own, right? So this would be the choice to make. But as I've said, opponent played queen d4, and in here I am really proud of the move I chose because it is maybe a quiet one. Natural way of playing would be perhaps to play bishop b2, trying to create some more, let's say, discoveries possible in the near future. But what I did not like particularly was the fact that my opponent can just simply run away. And yes, I have still some pressure. Maybe even I can try to push the pawns as far as possible, but queen is safe. And I wanted to really get it. And that's why I chose rook b3 in here, because I felt like with this move, a queen will have much harder life trying to go back there, because then I can, play bc, open it up, play cb, ba, and so on. So take everything. And for that reason, queen is more of a stuck in here. At this point, I've calculated two moves mostly, and I got tired, to be honest, and I just thought about the third one, that maybe it's interesting for the opponent, and I let him decide what to do, because already before queen d4 he used like half an hour of his time. In here he used another half an hour, leaving himself with less than 10 minutes on move 17. On top of that, it was just a terrible move. So it just shows you that the position was so complex that my opponent got overwhelmed and played a bad move. I will show it in a second what was the bad move, but first I will tell you what were the moves that I have considered. So d5, similarly to the previous position, right, was a option for the opponent for sure to try to think of. In here, I believe I would have gone for the cd5, and after cd5 some bishop b2, trying to make use of the fact that not only did my rook was trying to imply some pressures along the b file to b7 pawn, but also is helping now to the bishop of mine, so that indeed knight d5 possibilities might be incoming. So this queen has nowhere to go to. If it goes to c5, I have bishop a3. If it goes to b6, the d5 pawn is hanging. I am taking there with the fork, with the introduction of the bishop, taking the other pawn. So I am basically crashing through opponent's position. So d5 was not the best in here, because also the whole objective of it is gone, because d5 was preferable when the rook was attacked. Now it's not. So the other move caught my eye mostly, and it was e4, with the attempt of closing down the bishop and this whole pressure along the long diagonal. And in here I would have been choosing between a few options. Knight e2 was one I considered strongly, because after any queen move to that, let's say, space to this side of the board, I have the ideas of, for example, bc, queen c6, knight d4, hitting here and there, trying to hit there, having an eye on all the weaknesses, and so on, so on. Also, some knight f4 looks nice, simply focusing on the bishop. And I was calculating mostly what happens after queen a1, because I didn't like the fact that the queen can just go there and attack my pawn, not go back, not allow me to play this, not allow me to do the fork, like what to do now. And I felt like queen in the corner should not be that good for black, but how to react exactly, I need to figure out. I needed to make sure that I am better. So knight c3 comes to mind first as an attempt to, first of all, block the queen, second of all, to protect the pawn, therefore also block the queen along the a file. Queen is now stuck, but I have difficulties with catching it because after d5, this square is controlled, so I don't have this one. I don't have this move either because the queens are looking at each other and might be exchanged. But in here I found that after I will play cd5, cd5, I am just releasing the tension on the pawn on c4 because I don't want it. And now knight d to b1 is winning because, well, I did not need much more protection of the knight or of the a3 square, but I needed protection through the first rank. So now bishop b2 idea is simply deadly. Opponent has nothing to play in here and I am collecting the queen in the corner. So this I saw, and as I've said, I got, let's say, tired and I didn't want to calculate further, but at the end I spotted that f4 is an interesting possibility because even though I would like to execute kind of the similar idea perhaps of knight e2 hitting the queen, allowing it to either to the corner and catching it there, or let's say to this diagonal trying to once more work this out or this out, or even, I mean, you know, create some pressure there, the queen is escaping actually because the pawn can take on g3 with a check, and once I take back, I wanted to do so with the rook. h4 square is the new one for the queen. So still the queen is not in the best shape ever, but at least it has some more squares to you know, run around, and it was not clear for me how to continue. And you cannot be, let's say, relying only on the engine evaluation because everywhere I see +2, +3, +4. Human-wise, I mean, I would need to prove myself, right? So this would be an interesting choice for sure of this f4. So I could be playing like this. Maybe I would take the pawn, maybe I would play like this. So yeah, in here I would have to, you know, got my energy again to calculate and calculate it deeper, but I just went away, as I've said. And my opponent in here played bishop g5, the move that I cannot simply understand. It does not create pressure to the piece or the pawn or the square that I'm worried about in any way, really. So I was like, what is it for? Like, knight e2 was on my mind in nearly all the variations. And in here I can just execute it without any problems whatsoever. My diagonal was not closed, my king is under no danger. Yeah, so strange feeling. And also after knight e2, queen a1, since the bishop is gone, I have rook a3. So all in all, quite a strange decision, I would say, from the opponent. Because in here he just shaked his head after half an hour thought, and he went back to b6, and I just took. If queen goes away, I take here and there. So he basically gave me up the queen, and like, was this the desired outcome of his half an hour thought process and calculation? I highly doubt it. So something went wrong. I'm not sure what, but I did not care as much during the game because it just simply felt like an easy win. And to be honest, I expected my opponent, after shaking his head, after having 5 minutes on the clock on the move number 19, to basically resign in here or in there. But the game lasted 15 more moves, believe it or not. I'm not sure why did my opponent play it, but we have all been there, right? Perhaps it was just simply the frustration. He did not want to resign so early, so he just played out the moves because, I mean, he has some compact position. Everything is somewhat, I don't know, protected. So whatever. But yeah, I will not comment that much any further about this game because it's clear that I am winning. I have far too much of the material advantage, and if so, I will just play out the moves while not commenting much. My general objective was obviously to try to get to the king as soon as possible because I didn't want this game to be any longer. So once I planted the knight there, I played queen h5, queen h6, threatening with the checkmates. In here I added a little bit of spiciness and tactics because I felt confident about my position. I took on c6, rook is overloaded, it cannot take my bishop because it has to protect the checkmate on f8, so I grabbed the pawn. And it's not about the pawn itself, you know, I have plenty of material, it's about opening up the light squares for both my pieces. Simple as that. So after this, I knew that it's simple. Knight b4 happened, bishop d5, king h8 went away from the diagonal, knight g5, setting up the knight f7 jump, but he took my bishop, undermining the f7 square. But after two more moves, which were knight f6 and knight takes g7, finally he resigned two moves before checkmate, because the king is basically trapped, has nowhere squares to go to, and I will just jump back and that's it. Then I will checkmate on the next move. So this win was not earned from myself, if I can say it. It was just given to me because, as I've said, in the crucial moment, I played b5 without expecting knight g4, and once it happened, I knew that I am better, and within next three moves, my opponent blundered into simply losing position without a queen. So I just, took what was given to me, and sometimes such a victory does not taste as the one that is so hard earned and so on. But after three losses in a row, I will happily take such a win. I don't care about the style, I care about the point. And also, it was pleasant, rather short game. So all in all, interesting game, especially in the middle game, but for the very short period of it. And the rest was easy, formality, and that's that. I finally bounced back. I won a game after three losses, and with the better mood, I was going into the last round of the tournament that was played in the next morning, so not that much time to either prepare or regroup or anything, rather packing the bags and trying to think about the journey home. But the game has to be played, so we'll see how did the game resolve in the tomorrow's analysis. As of this one, thank you very much all for watching, and we'll see each other tomorrow. Thank you once more. Bye bye.